Have you ever felt lost, truly alone, with the world seeming vast and indifferent? Imagine that feeling, but as a 10-year-old boy stranded in the heart of a sprawling, ancient forest. This is the story of Leo, a boy whose summer camping trip turned into an adventure that would challenge everything we think we know about the wilderness and the creatures that might inhabit it. It all began on a seemingly perfect afternoon. Leo was with his family in the expansive Redwood National Park, an avid explorer even at his young age. He was fascinated by a trail of unusually large, gleaming white quartz stones. One stone led to another, deeper and deeper into the dense woods. He was so engrossed he didn't notice the sky turning a bruised shade of purple or the distant rumble that was growing steadily louder. By the time he looked up, the familiar campsite was gone, replaced by an endless sea of giant trees. Panic began to set in as the first heavy drops of rain fell. The rumble was no longer distant. It was a deafening roar, a fierce storm, the kind that makes the very ground tremble, descended upon the forest. Wind howled like a mournful beast, and rain lashed down, blurring the world into a chaotic mess of green and brown. Leo, small and terrified, scrambled for shelter. He found a small opening at the base of a colossal ancient redwood, a hollow barely big enough for him to squeeze into. He curled into a ball, shivering from the cold and the fear, the thunderclaps echoing his own frantic heartbeats. He must have drifted into an exhausted sleep, because when he opened his eyes, the storm had quieted to a steady drizzle. But he wasn't alone. Curled up at the other end of the hollow, whimpering softly, was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It was small, no bigger than a human toddler, and covered in shaggy cinnamon-colored fur. Its eyes, large and impossibly dark, were wide with fear. It wasn't a bear cub or a monkey or anything from his science books. A thought, wild and unbelievable, sparked in Leo's mind. Could this be a baby Bigfoot? The little creature let out another soft cry. Leo's fear was suddenly overshadowed by a wave of empathy. This little thing was just as lost and scared as he was. Hesitantly, Leo reached into his pocket and pulled out the half-eaten granola bar he'd saved. He broke off a small piece and slowly, carefully held it out. The creature sniffed the air, its tiny nose twitching. After a moment that felt like an eternity, it crept forward and gently took the offering with its surprisingly delicate, hand-like paws. As it nibbled on the granola, its whimpers subsided. In that shared moment of vulnerability, an unspoken truce was formed. Leo decided to call him Rusty, after his cinnamon-colored fur. The next few days were a masterclass in survival, taught by the most unlikely of teachers. While Leo knew some basic camping rules, Rusty seemed to have an innate understanding of the forest. He showed Leo which berries were safe to eat. Pulling on his sleeve and pointing with his little hand towards clusters of juicy, dark blue huckleberries. He led him to a hidden spring with water so clear and cold it tasted like life itself. When Leo shivered at night, Rusty would snuggle up close, his furry body a warm, living blanket against the damp chill. They were an odd pair, a lost boy in a bright yellow raincoat and a creature of myth, communicating not with words, but with gestures, sounds, and a shared will to survive. Their bond grew stronger with each passing hour. They played games of hide-and-seek among the giant ferns. Leo would sing songs his mother taught him, and Rusty would listen, his head cocked to one side, occasionally letting out a series of soft, musical chirps in response. Leo discovered that Rusty was incredibly intelligent. He could mimic sounds perfectly, from the call of a distant bird to the rustle of leaves in the wind. It was during one of these quiet moments, as they sat watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, that Leo felt a profound sense of peace. He was still lost, but he wasn't alone anymore. He had a friend. But their peaceful existence was about to be shattered. One morning, a deep, resonant call echoed through the valley. It was a sound that was both powerful and filled with anguish. Rusty froze, his entire body tensing up. He answered with a high-pitched cry of his own. The call came again, closer this time. Leo understood immediately. Rusty's family was looking for him. A mix of joy for his friend and a deep, aching sadness for himself washed over Leo. He knew he had to help Rusty get back to his family, even if it meant being alone again. Following the direction of the calls, they journeyed for what felt like miles. As they neared a ridge, the calls became deafening, and then Leo saw them. Two massive, shadowy figures stood at the edge of a clearing. They were giants, covered in the same cinnamon fur as Rusty, their powerful frames conveying an aura of ancient wisdom and strength. They were Bigfoots. The mother, her eyes filled with a desperate longing that transcended species, let out another call. Rusty burst from the tree line, racing towards her with a joyous cry. The reunion was a powerful sight, a flurry of fur and affectionate deep rumbles. The larger Bigfoot, presumably the father, then turned its gaze towards Leo. Its eyes, deep and intelligent, seemed to look right through him, not with malice, but with a profound, knowing gratitude. It raised a massive hand, not in a threatening way, but in a gesture of acknowledgement, of thanks. Then it gently nudged its family, and the three of them turned and melted back into the forest, disappearing as mysteriously as they had appeared. Leo stood there, alone once more, the silence of the forest now feeling heavier than ever. But as he looked down, he saw something at his feet. It was a single, perfect white quartz stone, just like the ones that had led him into the forest. He picked it up, and as his fingers closed around it, he heard a new sound. It wasn't the call of a Bigfoot, but the faint, familiar whir of a helicopter. He looked up, and there it was, a search and rescue chopper hovering above the clearing. He was saved. When Leo was finally reunited with his frantic parents, his story was met with disbelief. A baby Bigfoot, a giant, furry creature. The adults dismissed it as a coping mechanism, a fantasy his young mind had created to deal with the trauma of being lost. But Leo knew the truth. He had the smooth white quartz stone in his pocket, a tangible piece of his unbelievable journey. He never saw Rusty or his family again, but he never forgot them. His adventure taught him that the world is far more mysterious and wonderful than we can imagine, and that friendship can be found in the most unexpected of places, creating bonds that defy nature itself. What do you think? Could a creature like Bigfoot really exist in the unexplored corners of our world? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more adventures into the unknown. We'll see you next time.